Hi, so with this video tutorial, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to assemble your skimmer car. Keep in mind that everyone is starting with the same basic car using the same template. You are responsible, one, for creating a high quality car, and two, designing the aerodynamic cabin in CAD that will be 3D printed for the top. So these steps are really important that you take your time. Through this video, press pause, repeat as you need to, step ahead, come back and rewatch whatever you need to make sure you make a quality project. This one right here, it's been tested out in the hallway, so it's a little beat up. This typically will happen, but this is going to consist of the main part here is your body, all right, and it kind of has a swoop on the side, all right. It creates that airfoil shape that we're learning is very important for lift. It has two fins. Notice that the fins are equal distance from both the front and the back. All right, the tops are the same length here. They're straight, and we want to try to have them parallel. The sides of this, ideally, if this was freshly made, hopefully by the end of the video you'll see nice and crisp, the side walls of the body are flat, and this scoop here is actually put together at an angle. This step's really important to make sure that that angle exists, and this is a clip or your hook from a paper clip that's going to be important to attach to the rubber band so you can pull it back for thrust and launch it down the hallway. So let's begin. So you're going to start with this template and a piece of cardstock. So the cardstock has a shiny side, silky smooth like conditioner, and a not so silky side. And we're going to use rubber cement. This stuff stinks, so get it done quickly and use as little as possible. Okay, so we are going to put rubber cement, this is important, on the template. We're using rubber cement instead of regular glue because it easily peels off. It is a temporary template. And if you're not going to have time to peel this off today, you might want to wait until the next class period and start at the beginning. So we want to put this on the back, pay attention to where all of our pieces are going to be. And we're going to put rubber cement on it and put it down onto the shiny side. So it looks like a jar full of boogers, okay? Just kind of wipe the excess on the side. Again, we don't need too much. If you are a glue monster here, you're going to have a heck of a time getting the rubber cement off, which is going to create a lot of drag and potentially friction as well. So I'm putting it where the template is so I can see those black lines through the back of the paper. I'm not putting on too much, and I'm not worrying about it being perfect either because this is just going to be taken off. So just enough so it's going to stay in place. You can kind of see the sheen of where I have the glue. And when I put this on the cardstock, I want to make sure that the template, all four pieces, are over the cardboard, okay? And I'm going to flatten that out, okay? Now we need some skizzers. Need big boy skizzers, not baby skizzers, nice and sharp. And those of you that are left-handed, talk to me first because there is a such thing as left-handed scissors. And if you try to cut this out with right-handed scissors, it's going to look like you chewed it with braces on. Now, if you notice, even I am really taking my time with this. I am cutting right on the line, especially on the body. These lines, that they're nice and straight, is really important. So these are going to be in contact with the floor. So we don't want it to be jagged like knobby tires on a mountain bike. We want it to be nice and smooth like road tires on a road bike. All right, we don't want knobby four-wheeling tires that are going to grip the rocks. That creates a lot of traction. We don't want that. We want it nice and smooth and reduce that friction. Good friction is traction, but with this challenge, that's bad friction also. We want no friction, minimal at least. So I'm cutting right on the lines. Notice I'm cutting this out as a whole rectangle first, okay? And I'm cutting on the solid lines. You are not cutting on the dotted. The dotted will be fold lines. Now, when I come into these triangles, I'm going to be really careful. This tiny little triangle I will take care of for you with an X-Acto knife. Some people can get it nicely with skizzers, but I've been doing this long enough. I know more kids end up screwing up that corner trying to get the skizzers even there. Even the most skilled cutting can screw that up. So I'm taking my time, making sure I'm right on the line. I'm focusing, tapping back into those kindergarten skills. Now what you can do at this point is hand it to me. I'm going to use a box cutter, but I'll do this step. All right, and I will clip those wings. So I will knock these right out. And you don't have to do this step right away, so you don't have to be held up waiting for me. If I'm working with another student, you can move on and just ask me to clip your wings or cut out your triangles when I am free. Okay, so I'm just going to knock those right out. And this is what the body looks like. Okay, so a couple things I am going to do while I have it so I don't forget. I have one hole punch floating around the room. And so I recommend you use it right away so you don't forget this step. And you want to line up the hole with the hole of the hole punch. Okay, if it's off, that's no good. Because again, this is where your hook's going to go, and you want to make sure that that thrust is even. And just give it a squeeze. Okay, so that's what we're looking for, a nice clean hole. And I'm going to set this aside. I'll fold all of the fold lines together. So next up, I'm going to go into the fins. Again, I'm not going to speed up this video. I am going to play it as long as it takes me to construct, but I've made probably 100 of these cars. So I'm probably moving quicker than you are, and that's okay. Just hit the space bar. Pause it. And again, I'm cutting right on the lines. Please make sure at the end of the class or when you're done with these steps that you clean up all these scraps. Because I ain't your mommy. All right, next, the scoop. You've got these tiny little tabs. Don't cut them off. I've warned you. It's official. So I recommend cutting out the rectangle first and then going in for the scoop tabs. There are 2 fatties and 2 skinnies. And the fact that you notice that is going to be really important. Now I recommend to get into these corners that you make 2 tiny little parallel cuts next to each little tab. And then just like if we were on the bandsaw, come in on a little swoop here, cut into that corner, and it just falls away like a relief cut with the bandsaw. And then try to do the same, a little bit more awkward coming backwards in the opposite direction. Okay, that's what we're looking for, nice and clean. Now the scoop is really going to help to create lift. It's going to add to that airfoil shape. Okay, so again, I cut in a little bit. Now I'm gonna come in on an angle. Basically just made 2 relief cuts with scissors. And then I'm gonna come in and notch that out. All right, so at this point, I now have 4 pieces, parts, and a bunch of scraps. Really important, everyone's pieces look identical. So make sure you write your name clearly on the cardboard, not on the template side because we're going to be taking that off. Your name and your period, okay? On every piece. If you use pencil, you can always erase it later if you don't like the looks of it, but everyone's is going to have that on there. All right, and you're going to grab a paper clip. So this is, like I said, going to be your hook, but it'll also keep your pieces parts together. So if you're not ready for the next step, just keep everything paper clipped together and store in your cabinet. Okay, but now we're ready for a couple steps here. The fins, I'm just going to peel off the template. Now, if I was a bit of a glue monster, I might have a little bit of glue on there. Rubber cement, you can literally rub it away. That's the beauty of it. But again, don't use too much. Like there's barely anything on the cardstock, which is really great. So I'm going to put my fins aside. Next one that's really easy to fold is my scoop. Grab yourself a scale, not a ruler, a scale. The triangle is going to be helpful for folding. Now your scoops, your fatties are going to, and fingernails do help here, I'm not going to lie, which I don't have at the moment. But if you're like jacking them up because you have 0 fingernails, just talk to someone, or you could even use like your paper clip just to lift and get underneath as I did and fold it over. All right, but ladies, those of you with your fierce manicures, you might be the class champion helping people flip up these tabs. All right, so I'm just going to lift it up. Okay, so the fat ones, you're going to fold up like so. The skinny ones, you're going to fold them down. And these are a lot easier because they're just so skinny. You can just bend them right down. Again, those dotted lines are fold lines. All right, so the scoop is folded. Fatties going up, skinnies going down. Now, very carefully, so you don't tear the tabs, you're going to remove the template. Mine comes off so easy, again, because I didn't use too much rubber cement. Yep, nothing left over. Okay, again, I still have the 2 fat ones in the going upward, 2 skinny ones going down. I'm going to put that over by my fins. Now for the body. Before we fold anything, we need to do some measurement, and we're going to use our pencil here as well. Center lines are going to be really important here. So we are going to measure the center. All right, the body is 4 inches wide prior to, or it's just a hair under 4 because it's been reproduced. You'll notice this printout is kind of old. So just kind of center. It's like a 30-second. 1/32 on each side. So kind of center that off and make a mark for 2 inches. Now to find the center or to draw a line, you want to have 2 points. All right, so I'm going to line this up back here. So the back of my scale is lined up with the back. Again, so it's a nice parallel line to the back. I'm going to kind of center up those lines. A little 30-second here, a little 30-second there, and make a mark for the 2. And now I am going to connect as the dots. All right, just hold down. This is helpful too, using the scale, that you can hold this down while you draw your line. That center line is going to be really helpful for where you end up putting your cabin. You want your cabin to be on the center for launching. Also for placement of your hook in the front. Additionally, when you pinch in the back, it'll help you to keep in mind where the center is for launching for thrust. Okay, so now we need to mark where our fins are going to go. So right where the points are that I just trimmed with your trimmed your triangles out, I clipped your wings. So if you notice, these triangles come up to a point. That point is what you're lining up here. And we're simply going to draw a line going across. I have a lot of kids that skip this step over the years. But this is really important. It's the only way you're going to make sure that your fins are parallel and equidistant from the back together. Otherwise, I've had kids that'll have a fin up here or back here. That line is important. So these lines right here should be perpendicular, 90 degrees to each other. Okay, so we did this all on the rougher side. Now we're going to go back to where our template is, and we have some fold lines. These are a little tricky, trying to get the back of the body here. So I'm going to grab my paper clip again. It's a good trick. I'm going to push down. Oh, my paper's folding. All right, so I'm going to set my paper clip right here. Again, enlisting a friend in the class. Every class will have 1 or 2 kids that really excel at it. This is interesting. I usually don't struggle with this. This year I don't have fingernails. That's a problem. Okay. So I'm going to lift it up. Once you get it lifted, then you can get it going. So I'm going to hold that on the dotted line. Stay put. And then lift up. So again, this step is a little bit tricky, but notice I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing it, meaning that it might be boring for you to watch, but if you're doing the same step at the same time, I guess it's fine. Don't get frustrated. Just be patient. Okay. And fold it upward, all the way up to that triangle. All right, so that's why using the scale is really helpful to use. So I'm going to line this up. Lift it up. Man, this paperclip trick is where it is at. I just kind of thought of that on the fly making this video. All right, so I'm going to fold that guy up. All right, so these are going to be glue flaps, really important. Okay, so I have those folded up. Next, we want to make sure these are right on the dotted line because these are parallel to the edge, and this is essentially going to create the body of your car. So I'm going to line up those lines. These are a lot easier, and honestly, if you can get this nice and parallel, it's pretty satisfying to fold that right up nice and crisp, like that, right up against the scale, and it ends up holding it 90 degrees. Lift it up. There we go. All right, so now we're folded. All right, our two edges and our fold flaps. So now I'm very carefully, again, going to peel off the template, but only do this after your hole's punched and your folds are made. 4 folds on the body. Also, be careful when you peel this off, especially if you're a glue monster, that you do not rip off those little flaps on the bottom. Hey, just the right amount of glue. A little bit right here. Just going to rub to remove that. And please don't bring up your goobery cardstock. I am not going to take care of it for you. You literally just rub and it just falls right away. Okay. Get that nice and clean. If you don't do this step now, it's going to be harder later. All right. Cool. All right, so that's done. All right, again, if it's at the end of class, make sure you paper clip all your stuff together. But at this point, we're going to start with assembly. First thing is using hot glue for this fold flap. All right, so I will have some models over at the hot glue station that you can model, but we want to make sure that these are underneath. Remember, hot glue, it's hot. Remember, not only is that metal tip right there hot, the molten lava that comes out of it, that's hot, right? The paper, yes, it's a good insulator, but it's not enough. If it's still liquid, it's still hot. So if you burn yourself, one, let me know. You want to go right over to the sink and run it under cold water right away. If it's really bad, I'll get you a Band-Aid, maybe some burn ointment. But please, go slow, be smart. And you don't need a ton. Now, when you're adding hot glue, keep in mind it adds weight. So if you're adding weight on one side, think about when you go sledding or if you go snowmobiling or dirt biking and you want to turn. What do you do with your weight? Most of us have all been sledding. But if you're about to hit a tree, what do you naturally do? You don't just sit in that sled and wait until you hit that tree, do you? You shift all your weight so that you can turn and veer. So keep that in mind with this. If you add twice as much glue on this glue flap, it's going to want to veer it in that direction. So weight's going to be really important. That's why this project has a lot of trial and error and testing throughout it. Okay, so hot glue, go on over to the glue station, add a little bit, do one flap at a time, but just pay attention to how much you're adding. Notice that I'm putting this on not the shiny side, I'm putting it on the smooth side, okay? Notice I'm looking at my lines. I'm putting a little bit of hot glue, and I'm going to put this underneath. Again, I'll have probably the exact model that I'm making right now in this video over at the hot glue station for you to take a look at. All right, so we want these edges ideally to be nice and smooth, all right? But you kind of pinch and make sure that that's nice and flat. But this gives us that airfoil shape, all right? Making this a longer surface to travel over, all right? Creating fast-moving air and low pressure, okay? But this is where you want to make sure you don't get any hot glue on the bottom. If you add hot glue, again, you're essentially adding a tire on the bottom, creating traction. We don't want that traction. We want it nice and smooth. All right, so now keeping in mind how much we put on the first flap, we want to apply roughly about the same on the second. Again, notice I'm taking my time. I'm not rushing this. Quality work takes time and patience. You have a few moments before it cures. No, you don't have a minute, but you have some time. And don't stick your finger in any puddle of hot glue. I have a little bit that oozed out here, but I can peel that off later. I'm not going to stick my finger in it because that would burn me. All right, so ideally my sides are crisp and parallel. All right, and my body has that nice curve. Okay, so now that's done. Next up, this step you might need to watch a couple times to get it right. We need our scoop. Our scoop, remember we had the fatties and the skinnies, right? Look at my model that is by the hot glue station with the scoop done also. You are going to have fatties in the front, remember that alliteration, skinnies in the back. In fact, the skinnies you can actually hang on the sides of the card, of the body of the car. Your fatties are going to actually glue right in the very front corner of the body. Those are going to come up square. So we're going to just do one glue tab at a time, one flap. So fatty first in the front, on the inside, and like so. This we want to be careful of and clean up if we do get any goobers, because that's going to be like one sneaker right in the very front. Just don't burn yourself. But remove any excess you may need to. Okay? And do the same on the other side. Notice how I did basically a dry glue. I lined it up, make sure I was in a good spot before I committed with glue. It's always a good idea, just like we did with our cantilever, is to do a dry clamp before you commit with the glue. Now, the paper, I personally don't have too much feeling for temperature in my fingers, but that's just me. I'm also not squeezing. I'm just holding my fingers there. If I pressed hard, I would feel the heat for sure, but just be careful with this. Go slow again. It's pretty much curing. Hot glue doesn't dry. The temperature just drops and it cures, becomes a solid again. It's like saying ice dries. Well, I guess it does when it evaporates. All right, anyways, now for the skinnies. So the skinnies are going to hang on the outside here, all right? And this adds to that airfoil, changing the speed of air from the bottom to the top, creating different pressure areas. And the pressure areas want to be at equilibrium, which creates the force of lift, because that skimmer car is in the way. Excuse me. So, notice that I have a little bit of glue on the side, which that's not that big of a deal. You can clean it up if it's creating some drag. Where you really don't want it is on the bottom. All right, so my body is complete. Now I'm ready for my fins. Fins here, you actually have a wider side and a thinner side. And if you had them opposite, you'd notice. All right, they are actually asymmetrical from the top and the bottom. They're not a mirror image. All right, so you want to make sure you have it so that they are the same. And the shorter side is what glues. All right, so this is the exact same height as the body. All right, this one is going to be a little too high. So the wider area, you'll notice if you try putting that there, it sticks up too high. So that fins upside down. I want the lower side. It lines right up with the body. So I'm going to take my fin. Again, I'm doing like a dry clamp, getting it in order. The front of it is going to line up with that line that I drew. And I'm going to add some glue. Not too much. I want to make sure I'm not going to create traction or put tires on the bottom. That's no good. That's about as much glue as I put. Lining it up, giving it a moment to cure, and then I can give it a little pinch to clamp it. Okay. Again, I'm going to double check, make sure I didn't flip it. Before I commit with the glue, I'm going to double check, make sure I have the right side. Add some glue, not too much. I want to make sure I don't put sneakers on. And again, with any of these steps, guys, click the space bar to pause. Excuse me. And you want these even with the edge. All right, skimmer car is almost complete. Next step is getting your hook. So you've had your paper clip holding your pieces parts together. This next step is awkward. I can help you with it. However, I'll walk you through the steps to see what to do. So pliers and wire cutters are going to be helpful here. So you're going to kind of hold it on the shorter side with the single side of the paper clip. Right? Take a pair of pliers. I have needle nose, but you can use regular pliers here. And you're going to twist that bigger part away from you. You could even hold this with 2 pliers. By the end of the day, I end up with 2 pliers because my fingers hurt. All right? Like so. But that hook is way too big. You want to give it a little bit of a haircut. You don't want to take off too much because if it's too short, you're going to end up straightening out your hook and you're not going to be able to grip that rubber band. Too much of a hook, you could end up tearing that rubber band. Okay, so I'm going to just knock it. I'm going to put it down to the table so it doesn't go flying. And again, I can help you with it. I actually took off too much. But it's okay. Like if your hook ever changes shape, this is one of the variables you can change during testing while troubleshooting is adjusting that hook. But this should be one of the last things you should be playing around with because I can help you to create the appropriate hook. And how this guy is going to go. All right, I'll even set this up for you too. So you're going to take the back of the hook. So I'm holding onto the hook itself. Take the back of the paper clip. You're going to push it through your hole. Push it through and then pull it through like so. All right, so the paper clip part, it's hard to see, mirror image, is underneath. Now my hook, I want lined up with that line I drew. Okay, so all I'm going to do, I'm going to put some hot glue right here. Now remember, metal is an immense conductor of heat. So I don't recommend that you add all this glue and then touch the hook. Grab a pair of pliers from the red tool cabinet, second drawer of the red tool cabinet. And you can use the pliers to hold it in place. All right, but again, make sure that that hook is lined up with that line. It's not sticking out too far, but it's not in too much. That's about how much you want your hook to be sticking out here. All right, so I'm letting that cure. Nope, doesn't want to be done yet, huh? So just be patient till that cures. If you do what I'm doing, you're going to make spider webs, which is going to create drag. So that should hold in place. Okay, cool. So now once that's in place, now I can go a little bit inside and make sure that that's in place. But I don't want to go too crazy with the glue because all of this can create drag. Ladies and gentlemen, your skimmer car is complete. Make sure before you go into your first test launch that this glue is completely cured. I have kids that run out there, and then the only thing that goes flying is their paper clip. So with the next phase, you're going to do some research without a cabin on the car. Don't crank it back all the way, just a little bit. Make sure you have your research document paper and you fill out all the information with each launch. All right, make sure that you're putting that in for accuracy and paying attention to what happens to your car. Are there any modifications that need to be made before you even put a cabin on there? For example, do you have sneakers or tires along the bottom that could be cleaned off? And I'm talking not grabbing an X-Acto knife. Please don't do anything like that, but simply just with your fingernails, just peeling off any little pieces of glue. All right? Are your wings parallel to each other? Are your sides of your body parallel to each other and perpendicular to the deck? These are the things that we're looking for. So here's your completed skimmer car. Keep it in a safe place, and again, make sure your name's on there because everyone looks the same. And all along, I want you to keep it in mind, who is that charity that you are racing for?